All right, hello. Welcome to the barn. Welcome back to Faith and Physiology, the show, series, whatever you want to call it, where we are representing the power of faith through the masterpiece of physiology, of human physiology. And if you're new here, this is the barn. If you don't know me, I have little kids, and sometimes it's nice to just not have someone barge in on you. And this is the one place that I have for that to be able to do that is outside in the barn with the door closed. So, welcome to the barn. If this is your first time here, if it's not, welcome back. We are going to be digging into a little bit more of that action side of our nervous system today. I really like to talk about the nervous system first and give you that foundation first, because if you can understand how the organs work when they are taking action versus when they are rest, digesting, and healing, you can pretty much have a very strong foundation for why your body does most of what it does. And I like to go that route first, because then it sets you up for when you're looking at, okay, I'm going to start learning about the kidney. Well, then we can look at it through certain lenses, and it makes it easier, I personally think, to retain the material and understand what's happening in your body. Now, you might think the kidney is boring, but I did a touch up on it for my physiology class this semester, and I was like, oh my gosh, I never really appreciated the kidney or the liver. They're both like really cool organs. But we are still going to be talking about the nervous system and through the perspective of the gut and digestion, how we digest our food, because there's so many people that are struggling with IBS, irritable bowel, or diverticulitis, or Crohn's, or weird things that they can't digest food, or acid reflux. We could go through the gambit of things that people are struggling with. And I really like to give this foundation of what is going on when our nervous system is preparing for action and taking action. Okay. So we talked about how we have two different parts of our nervous system, or we talked about what makes up the nervous system last time. And that was the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that exit. Okay. So these are the nerves exiting at you. So we're looking at this like this. So as if you're looking at this brain from this perspective. Let me move my microphone up. Who knows what's happening here. Okay. So we're looking at this through the perspective of like I'm standing this way. Okay. And these little nerves are coming out, and then they shoot out like, say so, and they go to their tissues that they need to go to. Okay. We have cranial nerves that come out from the spinal cord. Okay. The spinal column right next to the brainstem. I said spinal cord. They're coming out of the brainstem. And so, again, if you're new here, you are literally getting me raw and real. I am doing my level best to not edit these, to not cut these, to post what I post when I am making these videos raw and real. And so I try to give you my mess ups. I tried to give you my mistakes, because I got the calling to just start this. And I'm re-bringing this up. I'm re-presenting this to you because I've made quite a few videos now, maybe 5. And I want to reopen the doors to recognizing that when you have something that's put on your heart, so many times we don't just start, and we don't just fail, and we don't go through the process of messing up, making mistakes, failing fast. Those are the things that I tell my daughter. But we don't give ourselves as adults that same grace. And so I'm showing you raw and real the just starting aspect of when you are doing something, how hard it is, whether that's maybe you're starting a new workout routine, maybe you're starting a new eating, like having new eating habits, maybe you're starting a new mental health routine, whatever it might be. I want to show you that there's going to be falls. As a matter of fact, I haven't gotten to film a new video for a few weeks. So, or yeah, maybe 2 weeks now. So I'm giving this to you extremely raw and real, that you can start no matter what. Even if you're a busy mom of 2 kids and running practice and all of that. So again, back to the nervous system. So we have what makes up the nervous system in general is the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that exit. Okay. And that is our nervous system. And then we talked about it the other day. So we're going to put in S for nervous system. We have branches of that nervous system. So we have where it's sensory, and we have where it's motor. You know, even before we go that route, I'm going to go this route. We have peripheral, which means it's on the outside, peripheral nervous system, and we have the central nervous system. Okay, so the central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. And the spinal cord is housed by bone. It's your spine. It's housed by bone, and your brain housed by your skull. As soon as those nerves exit, it makes up the peripheral nervous system. Now, so this would be considered the peripheral nervous system. Everything going on out here. Okay? Now, today we're going to be talking about things that go on in this peripheral nervous system. And there's 2 parts here, and there's 2 parts to the central nervous system as well. But we have the, let's talk about here. We have the somatic, and we have the autonomic. Okay? The somatic, this is our voluntary, so we can put this here, voluntary. We can pretty much control this for the most part. So that's skeletal muscle. Then we have autonomic. This process happens without us even having to think about it. So it happens automatically. And there are ways that you can work with this system voluntarily, but most people are not consciously working with this autonomic side of their nervous system. Okay. And then we talked about it the other day when we were talking about how one side kind of gets a bad reputation. We have the parasympathetic. I'm just going to use the same color again. Fun note. What they're finding is that because of how visual we learn, like social media, YouTube, all of that stuff, they're finding that if you're drawing something, it sticks in your brain better. And teachers probably know this. They're like, yeah. But our brains are changing. And so we see like images now instead of like seeing words. I thought that was a fun fact. And then we have the sympathetic. And remember, we talked about how this sympathetic side, if you didn't watch the first video, we talked about this more. Sympathetic side kind of gets a bad reputation. Just a quick reminder, if you didn't watch that first video, the parasympathetic is our rest, digest, heal, and I'm going to add even grow. This is that side this is the main functions of this parasympathetic side. The sympathetic side, we talked about for taking action. I like to start with that. Taking action, because we have changed. It's not necessarily for running from a tiger anymore or running from danger anymore. This is more so for taking action. Okay? But it's also known as the fight, flight, or freeze side. Okay? Fight, flight, freeze. Today, what we're going to be honing in on and focusing is the sympathetic nervous system, specifically its actions that it takes on our digestive system. Okay? Because, again, we are all facing such a dilemma with our digestive health, and that trickles over into every area of life, right? Because digestion is where our building blocks are brought in, broken down, and processed. And so what we're having now is a lot of autoimmune conditions we're having a lot of things that are showing up, and we're looking at it and it's like, oh, digestive health. And you can see like, oh, what's your probiotics, like your prebiotics. Now there's postbiotics. So this is a pretty popular topic, and I really want to dive into what your nervous system is doing in your gut. So let's take a real life example that you've probably experienced in your life, as long as you can drive. And if you can't, maybe as a passenger. You're driving and maybe somebody doesn't stop and pulls out in front of you. And it's like, you can automatically like feel your legs go numb. If you've driven in Dallas, Texas, you know this has happened, that people will just cut you off out of nowhere. But you're driving and somebody doesn't stop at the stoplight. You feel your feet, like this is personally what happens to me. You feel your feet go numb, your heart starts racing, you feel all tingly, like you get the shakies, you get the jitters. And there's a reason that happens. That is a short-term response of taking action. Your muscles were flooded with nutrients. Things were pulled away from your internal organs to supply your muscles of your extremities, of your legs, your arms, so that you can get away. Even your eyes are impacted by it, okay? And I'm not going to go into all of it because it's very, very broad what happens in this system. And it's because there's a nerve that exits, and no, I'm not going to go there yet. You just wait. I don't want to get ahead of myself, okay? So first I want to talk about when we are looking at this system, there are little like chains, okay? And the signals have to pass through here. So these chains are hanging out in the level of T1 to L2, 3-ish. I'm just going to put 3. It depends upon what textbook you look at, okay? So these are hanging out right next to your spine. So these are called ganglia. They're just I call them a gang of cell bodies. So it's just a bunch of cells that do a certain action together. Don't get caught up in this. They're hanging out in your cervical spine as well. And then you have like chains of nerves that are hanging out like in front of like by your aorta, down here, they're all splanchnic nerves. And I'm not going to go into that too much because, again, this is base level, and I want you to look at this in a perspective that you're not having to take a board test, okay? But these nerves, they're coming out the wrong way. I wrote this chain right here is technically hanging out like right next to here. So it's hanging out next to your spinal cord. But these nerves, they like to exit, and they'll come through here, and they will either fire right there and make an action go out because there's nerves that are traveling out like this, or they can travel up, or they can travel down the chain and then make this signal come out at a lower or higher level. And it's just a really fast, really efficient way that we can make action happen quickly, okay? And they can travel up to these ganglia here to make stuff happen with your eyes, your mouth, but we're not going into all of that specifically. But the big thing that I want you to know is that these signals, they can travel up and down, okay? And they can travel really, really fast. Now, what does this have to do with your gut? So you have these chains of nerves that are coming out, T1 through T5, they're controlling your heart. So we're not going to really go through that too much. Different textbooks will cut out T5, but let me tell you, when I'm saying T, this is like your thoracic area. So starting T1 is right here, all the way down to T12, and then L1 to L5, and then sacrum is at the bottom. Coccyx is your tailbone, okay? This is your cervical spine up in your neck. And then your occiput, your skull, your head, okay? So T1 through T5 controls your heart. T1 through T5. And some of these cervical ganglia up here, some of our cranial nerves, they will also impact your heart as well. Now, when we are looking here, we're coming out, starting to get T6, 7, 8, 9, 10. we get this big nerve. They pass all the way through and they make a big nerve together before they fire in this cell body that's out here. Okay, they pass all the way through and they come here and they make this big nerve, and it's called the greater splanchnic nerve. I'll test you on it. I'm just kidding. But this greater splanchnic nerve, I'll write it here. Greater splanchnic, all right, nerve, and I'm just going to put nerve in. This nerve supplies, let's start here. Let's see if we can get this. Your stomach. Remember, I didn't go to art school. That's another one of those. I just kind of started. So let's kind of get our sphincter there. The first part of your duodenum. Okay. It also does, and let's not get too caught up because there's the greater splanchnic, there's the lesser, there's the least. There's all these different splanchnic nerves. There is the sacral, the lumbar region. They have their nerves that exit. I don't want you to get too caught up in that. But all of these nerves, they're going to these areas, to these organs. Okay, so let's erase this. Got that caught up. Just know that we have this big nerve. Okay, we have our pancreas that has its ducts and glands that are coming out. The pancreas is a really cool organ. We'll go over that someday. Okay, so there's our pancreas with its insulin releasing cells and its glucagon releasing cells that you hear about. You hear about insulin a lot of the times when it comes to digestion. So it innervates your pancreas, comes to your liver. Here, we'll do it like this. There's your liver. It will come to your gallbladder, which is on the back side of your liver, but we can make it line up with your pancreas because they work together. Hopefully, my musings as I'm drawing is just as entertaining as the knowledge that I'm giving you. Okay, so you have your stomach, your duodenum, which is the first part of your intestines, your small intestines. You have your liver, your gallbladder, your pancreas. Let's see. It is also it's doing most of your small intestines. So we could just do this bundle of yumminess. And then some of these other nerves are going to come out lower, and they will also do your colon. So this is not perfectly anatomically correct. Okay. And then down we have here to the rectum. Beautiful, right? Okay, so this is your gut. This is your digestive tract, okay? So we have the esophagus, the stomach. Stomach has its yummy acid in it. Gallbladder, pancreas, liver, large intestines, small intestines. And these nerves are going out. Okay, so let's talk about it. Maybe whenever that car pulled out in front of you, all of this ripple effect happened. So that stimulus, we're going to put stimulus right here. And we're going to put a positive action. Okay? Stimulus, your system receives it. This is the information that goes out. All right? So what's going to happen? Your stomach is going to receive a signal. Your esophagus, even, that might be a little higher up, controlled by the nerve, but it's going to receive a signal, and it starts here. Stop. We're going to put this, we'll put it in a different color. Decrease, we'll put it over here. Decrease peristalsis. And what peristalsis is it's a wave that moves through basically your entire digestive system that helps you to move things along. So the first signal is you're going to get decreased esophageal peristalsis. But the thing is that the esophageal peristalsis ripples and creates peristalsis in the stomach, the duodenum, that ripples through the small intestines, the large intestines, Okay. And so if we decrease here, we automatically start to decrease the peristalsis and the movement throughout the whole system. The next thing, so we have another nerve coming out, and it's controlling the stomach. And what it's doing in the stomach and in the area of the stomach is it's decreasing blood flow. And these are like big generalized that I'm talking about right now. I'm going to put this blood flow. What it's doing is it's constricting the blood vessels in the area. And what that will do is it will decrease absorption, which we don't really absorb a lot through our stomach anyways, but some medications and alcohol is absorbed in our stomach. But what's going to happen is decrease blood flow, and we are going to decrease absorption as a result of this decreased blood flow. And that is happening throughout the entire small intestines, the duodenum, jejunum, ileum. That's happening through all of it. It's all going to lose its ability to absorb. The other thing is it's going to decrease our secretions. So why does this matter, Nicole? Why does this matter at all? Because here's the thing. Your stomach is super, super, super acidic, but it needs acid because this is where protein is broken down. And a low pH unravels all that protein that you just ate. And everything has protein. Everything is made up of protein. And so as you decrease the secretions in your stomach, what you're going to do, and I know it sounds backwards, you're going to start raising the pH of your stomach. And what's going to happen is that food, and this is, we're talking about short term, like that thing pulled out in front of you and it scared you. But think about this long term. Right then and there, when that car pulled out in front of you, sorry about that. When that car pulled out in front of you, this happens. But what happens if this is happening long term? So you have protein that's falling into your stomach. It should be getting digested. It should be getting broken down into smaller pieces. But because our pH is so high, because we have decreased secretions in there, it's harder for us to break down our protein. And that is actually one of the bigger causes of acid reflux. And is that pH is not correct in there anymore. Another thing that's going to happen is there's a sphincter that's right here. It's a muscle that keeps this closed, okay? And it's going to activate that. And so you're not going to be getting as much coming through here to start even more breakdown. So you got fats, proteins, carbs, all hanging out in your stomach, and no peristalsis to move things through because everything needs to stop. That's okay in the short term, but what about if this happens in the long term? The next thing, so we have these nerves that come out to our duodenum, okay? And this is where the final breakdowns happen of your food. So you have your fat, these are our macronutrients, right? Fats, proteins, and carbs. Now, your carbs, carbohydrates, they start breaking down in your mouth because you start to release a certain kind of saliva, an enzyme in your saliva, if your sympathetic nervous system is not taking control. Side note. But then your stomach does your proteins. Your fats, you've seen fat, like if you mix fat with water and then you shake it up, they get this big globule, like big bubbles they look like. Well, that's what's hanging out here now, is partially broken down proteins, carbs, fats, okay? Now, we have another nerve that's coming through here, and it's going to the gallbladder. And what's happening is it's decreasing the motility, decreasing bile salts. Bile salts. Release or bile flow. We could put bile flow. Bile flow. And so what that means is that we have these big fat globules that can't really broken down because they don't have this flow of bile coming through here to help. They act like little scissors, and they cut it up and they make it smaller and smaller and smaller, so that when stuff that's coming from the pancreas into the intestines, when it gets there, it can break it down easier. But that's not happening because the gallbladder it has decreased motility. Now think of that long term. Those things sitting there hanging out for a long time, it's going to make it uncomfortable. It's going to make it to where these can calcify in there. Gallstones is what they're called. And it makes it more possible for that to happen. Now, there's a lot of factors that are also at play here, but thinking about just how your body prepares to take action, thinking about this, how often do you have to prepare yourself to go to work? Like knowing, like, I have to go into this job, or I have to step into this, I have to sit next to Becky all day, which I have an Aunt Becky, so bless your heart, Becky. That name just came to my head. I love her. She's not that way. But you have to sit next to Becky all day, and she stresses you out, and she complains all the time, and so you're constantly in this state of fight or flight, okay? The next thing, we have this nerve that comes to these little cells in your pancreas. And this one is actually more, we hear of this more. What's going to happen is we do not want all these organs taking in sugar. We don't want them taking in sugar because our muscles need the sugar, right? The muscles need the sugar. So insulin release is going to go down, decrease in insulin, and increase in what's called glucagon. And what glucagon does, as a result of increased glucagon, this is a hormone, is we are going to have increased blood sugar. And what does that mean? So we have this vein here, we'll just say. Let's not do it in blue because that can be confusing. So we have this vein here, okay? And it's carrying nutrients throughout the body. You just had a sympathetic state or sympathetic response, and we will do a video over this more, but your blood sugar needs to go up. It needs to go up because your muscles use sugar for energy really, really fast. And thinking of this, remember, we talked about this in the first video, but I'm going to say it again, and I've said it in pretty much every single video, is your nervous system is always trying to keep you alive. That's its number one goal, is to keep you alive, because without that underlying program, we would do a lot of stupid stuff, right? We could easily get ourselves into a lot of trouble. Because could you think of all of this? No, you couldn't. We increase our blood sugar so that our muscles have more energy. Now that doesn't sound bad, right? Right? We need that. That sounds normal. But think about, you go in there with Becky, you see her, she stresses you out, you have all of this happen, you increase your blood sugar, so we have more sugar going through here. But you're sitting at a desk. You're not really taking action. So do your muscles actually use all of that blood sugar? No. So it's just dumped, and then it's like, so that's why you feel that crash afterwards. It's like a high and then a crash. It's why you feel jittery. It's why you feel shaky. It's because of this blood sugar. And actually, nope, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. There's a giant rabbit hole that we could go down with blood sugar. Blood sugar can tell me about your sleep. It can tell me about, and your sleep can tell me about your blood sugar. There's a lot that can happen there. But we have this, and it shuts off insulin. That's pulling glucose back in. So you can't get this sugar back out to the cells because you're in this sympathetic state. Okay? And then on top of that, you have this nerve that comes to your liver. And it tells the liver, hey, we need to do glycogenolysis. And if you ever went through biochemistry, you might have had a small sympathetic response just to that word. But basically, I'm going to tell you, it's just breaking down stored forms of sugar so that we can also increase blood sugar. So not only is your sympathetic response telling your pancreas to enact an increase in blood sugar, but it's also telling your liver to do the same thing. Now, further down, we can talk about our colon right here. Our colon, this is still the digestive system, right? Our colon is being innervated by this, okay? And what it's doing, remember, it already started decreased peristalsis. So you have a decreased movement, decreasing blood flow, which your large intestine doesn't really absorb a lot, but it does reabsorb water, and it does reabsorb certain vital vitamins and electrolytes in this area, okay, like B12 and vitamin K. Those are all things that are absorbed in your colon. So automatically, we've decreased blood flow, which means we've also decreased absorptions, okay? And so now you have all of this feces hanging out here, and we don't have any movement, and so it's still pulling out a little bit of water, right? The little bit of water that it can get with the blood flow. It's still pulling out nutrients, but what's happening is it's getting hard. You see these little circular looking things here? What they're doing, what those muscles, the colon is very, very strong. And so what it's doing is it has these little pockets that are like squeezing all of the water out basically, and then pushing it along, squeezing, and waves are pushing it along, okay? What happens is you've got this squeezing and pushing happening, even though it's minimal. You're squeezing all the water out, and then it's getting to where, oh, it's really hard, and you can't get it out. So you could have days of constipation. And what people will say, well, I'm not constipated. I actually have like diarrhea. Well, that's your body's way of trying to get it out. So we can have bouts of constipation, diarrhea, constipation, diarrhea. You don't go for a few days, then you try to flush it out, and it just doesn't, it's not a healthy cycle. And you can see here that the sympathetic nervous system is supposed to respond this way. Why? Why is it supposed to respond this way? Because we need the blood flow to go to our muscles in a quick response. Because another thing that's happening that's really, really big, you have your beautiful little kidney here. You have a little organ. It's a pretty popular organ, and people talk about it a lot. But you have a nerve that's coming through here. It goes straight to this organ. So it doesn't even pass and synapse on any ganglia, any cell bodies. It goes right to this organ. And this organ is your adrenal gland. And what it's going to do, this is our blood supply right here, is it's going to have a fast response of what we call in the US norepinephrine and epinephrine. Okay? If you're from another country, you've probably heard of it called noradrenaline and adrenaline. Okay? And that's going to shoot up, and that's going to go to your entire bloodstream. So now it's a diffuse response. It's a widespread response. Whereas these are like a phone call happening fast. This is going through your bloodstream. Okay? And it's harder to slow this down. So when you see red, this is what me and my daughter talk about, is seeing red. And I'm like, I understand that you're upset and you're frustrated, and giving grace, because I'm recognizing like you just had a sympathetic response. You have norepinephrine and epinephrine flushing through your blood. So your body is doing physiological processes, and I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole, but it's taking blood flow away from those higher centers of your brain, and it's putting it right in this survival area. So the blood flow is going to the survival area, it's going to the muscles, and it's going to those abilities to get you out of a dangerous situation. But because we are in sympathetic states for long periods of time, you can see the effects that long-term stimulation, that long-term access to these kinds of chemicals is going to impact the way you digest your food, because it's going to make all of this happen slower. And we do not have the cleanest food in general. But thinking about, okay, I just put this maybe harder to break down, energy stealing food, high fatty meal into my body, and my body's not moving it along very fast. So it's happening super duper slow. And when that happens, and we have a decreased secretion right here, decreased secretion, I'm going to draw this line right down here. Decreased secretions equals, I'm going to put it right here, equals increased inflammation. Okay, and the ripple effect, the increased inflammation, is the increased breakdown of this whole system. Okay, so we can start to see things like leaky gut, malnourishment, like I said, diarrhea, GERD, acid reflux. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Constipation, which can be pretty painful. So you can see the stimulus creates a ripple effect of what's going to happen in your body, which I think is, first of all, if we're looking at this as a grand scheme of things, if we take a step back and we're representing faith to the human body, look at this system that works so well to protect us. I think that knowing this foundation of when I am stressed, even, and it's, exercise is so cool. Like when you willingly step into stress, it has a really cool physiological response. But when we are in a constant state of like danger, stress, this is what's happening. And this is what's happening with exercise as well, but it's different in a way that it's like, it doesn't create such devastating effects. But when we are taking action from a headspace of like, maybe it's victimhood, maybe it's a headspace of danger. We're constantly walking into what we perceive to be as dangerous. It's dangerous for my health. Maybe it's your relationship. He does this to me. He or she makes me feel this way. And it's like that constant bombardment of this system will have a ripple effect. So representing, when we are looking at your human body, your physiological effects, you can see like, oh man, there is such a grand design here. And looking at this as not these digestive symptoms, not as something as is wrong with you, it's crying out for you. Like your body is a temple, and it's crying out to you with these digestive symptoms that is saying like, hey, we need to make a change. There's something going on, whether it's a perspective or there is constant real danger. Your body is crying out and saying, hey, I need you to take action in another way. Like, get out of this danger because I can't sustain this. Because this is decreasing absorption of nutrients, right? You're not pulling in nutrients like you should. But this is also high energy state. When you are in a sympathetic state, you are using a lot of energy and you don't use it very efficiently. It's like, boom, let's get this, like, we have got to get this rolling and we're trying to get this moving. And maybe you're sitting still and it's like, I have nowhere to put all this energy. So you feel anxious. Your mind starts attacking you. Do you see why the sympathetic nervous system and just understanding it and looking at it from a perspective of, I might have these symptoms of digestion, inflammation, anxiety, but what is the bigger picture trying to tell me? Because my physiology is doing its job. What is it trying to tell me by it doing its job? And a lot of people will get really stressed out just even of, what's my body trying to tell me? And that's a first step. I do highly recommend that if that makes you anxious, then you get some help, because for real, this system is trying to protect you, but you have to try to protect it as well. And not a lot of us are trying to actively protect all of this that's going on. Okay, it is a one-way street oftentimes. Okay, we're like, I can put whatever I want in here that's high calorie but low energy, low nutrient foods, and I can expect the system to work properly while under high stress. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to do with you as an exercise, remembering I'm representing the power of faith through the masterpiece of human physiology. And as I'm doing this, I like to give little tips and tricks for you guys to step into and start practicing on calming this. One of the best exercises that you can do is in the first video, and that's just practicing breathing. How do I feel my breath in certain areas of my body? I don't want to hit this microphone too much, but breathing into your heart and feeling it under your hands. Breathing into your rib cage and feeling it under your hands. Breathing under your stomach and feeling it under your stomach. Because what that's going to do is that's going to start to allow this to go down, this bombardment to go down. And then what's going to happen is you're going to flip over to the parasympathetic side. And breathing is the best way to flick back over to that parasympathetic side. So breathing, moving, wiggling, all of that. So I literally tell my daughter, I can put her on blast here and bless her heart for when she's older, but when she gets in those places where she can't get out, she's so mad, it's like, but I'm just mad and I can't get out of it. And I don't know if you've ever been in that place, but I have. And so it gives me the ability to give her grace. How many times have you not given somebody grace for this? How many times have you not given yourself grace for this whole effect? And maybe it's just because you didn't know, but now maybe you know. Like when somebody is super stressed, they're spinning a million plates, you know that this is running through their bloodstream. You know that blood is being decreased from their brain. And it's the same thing with you. And so allowing grace for yourself and allowing grace for others, if that's the one thing that we get by presenting the nervous system this way, then we're already leaps and bounds making a difference just with that one step of giving people grace for where they're at. Now, I will tell my daughter, I will say, come with me and let's just wiggle. She hates it. She gets so mad. She's like, that's so embarrassing. I'm like, I don't care. It's embarrassing. So you can wiggle. It's embarrassing. This is going on the internet. I don't care. It's embarrassing, whatever. But laughing, do you see it? Doing something that's embarrassing. I'll go up to my room by myself and I'll just wiggle and jiggle and let it out. But what that's doing is it's allowing all of that energy that's flooding to your muscles. It's allowing your muscles to do something. Maybe you can do that, get the jitters out, and then start to breathe. Because oftentimes when we are here, the first thing that we think about isn't praying. It's getting away. And so because we are in a place where it's not probably a tiger chasing you, it's Becky annoying you at work, you can take a step away and you can go. And you can get the wiggles out and you can get that hum, that buzz feeling out. And then you can take some deep breaths. And then what I tell my daughter, I say, just say this simple prayer. God, I need help. Or God, I'm frustrated. Please help me. God, I am not thinking clearly. Please help me. God, my body is taking over. Please help me. Sometimes it feels like it's never going to end. Sometimes it feels like it's all my fault. Sometimes, the words sometimes and right now are powerful words that we need to put into our dictionary. Right now, God, I'm mad at Becky. Please help me. And whether your faith is way out there in manifestation, no matter what it is, if it's in Christianity, if it's in Buddhism, if it's whatever it is, our intention matters. And the reason that I say that, the way that I say that, is because I have studied a lot of different faiths. And a lot of the times there's so much crossover. And when we put our intention out there, like to that master weaver, the creator, God, please help me, something will come and help you. And just the prayer alone can help you. And so I pray that learning about your nervous system, one, it allows you to give yourself grace and give others grace. I pray that knowing about this system allows you to see how your body is giving you symptoms in a different light and not hating on your body. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body? No, please help me to see what's right with my body. Help me to listen to it. Help me to be with it and take care of it, that it's guiding me through here, that it's guiding me to the steps that I need to take to move forward, to make different choices, to have different reactions in my life, to have a different life. And I pray that not only do you have grace, not only do you see your body differently, but you also can take some massive steps towards moving out of this state when red, in quotations, takes over. And I pray that you can help me just by saying the words out loud. I need help. I need help. I'm disconnected. I feel like it's all my fault sometimes. I feel like right now, Becky's driving me crazy. I feel like I can't handle this right now. And just saying that, I pray that you learn to use the words right now and sometimes more often in your dictionary and in your vocabulary so that you can start to take action steps to move yourself in a new direction. I hope that today that you learned something big. Comment below if you have any questions. If you want me to dig into something further, I will dig into them further. But I want you to have the big overview and the big picture and my beautiful artwork. If you have any questions, you can comment below, like, follow, subscribe. That helps. And you can also email me. My emails are